And I just wanted to say that this is day 3 of our hearing. Today's September the 9th, it's 9 o'clock, and we are ready to hear from the 4th village witness. And so, Yvette, who would you like to call as a witness?
The village would call Tina Netzel.
Cecil, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this class will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Oh, can you hear me? Is this okay?
Tina Netzel.
All right. Could you please state your name for the record?
Tina Netzel
And where do you work?
at the Orland Park Police Department,
And how long have you been at the Orland Park Police Department?
14 years,
What position do you currently hold?
executive assistant,
And who are you an executive assistant to?
the chief and deputy chief.
Okay. Can you hear her okay?
It's kind of soft.
Chief and deputy chief.
Mr. Arbitrator, Ms. has some notes in front of her. Can we ask her if she's testifying from memory, or she has some notes in front of her?
I don't know what those are. You could just, can you put them away?
I sure can.
I don't think anything, that has anything to do with our,
These are nothing. They're for HR when I get done.
okay, why don't you just put them down on the floor, just so that there's no confusion about anything. And before we get started, let me, can I turn your attention to that big binder in front of you?
Yes.
Not this little one on top, but the bigger one on the bottom.
Okay.
There's an exhibit number 1. It's got a tab number 1, right?
Okay.
And then look at, turn your attention to on the bottom, there are bait stamps and it's 642. At the very bottom left-hand, I'm sorry, right-hand corner.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so you're the executive assistant to the chief and the deputy chief?
Yes.
And how long have you been the executive assistant to the chief and the deputy chief?
The current chief, 2 years.
And did you, were you the executive assistant for the previous chiefs as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been in that position for the entire 14 years that you've worked for Orland Park?
No, I was in the traffic unit previous to that.
Okay, how long ago were you in the traffic unit?
I was there for 9 years. No, I was not. I was, no, I was a secretary.
Did Bill Sanchez work in that traffic unit when you were back there?
Yes.
Where is that physical location of the traffic unit offices?
It's on the opposite end of the building.
It's on the opposite end of the building?
From where I am now, it's all the way the opposite end.
Okay. And that, I don't know how big that police department is, but it seems like it's as big as this village hall. Is that fair?
Yes.
Did the patrol officers or the sergeants or whoever worked back in the traffic unit, did they have offices back there?
Yes.
And did you have a cube like you have currently?
We were a small office.
Okay. Oh, so you were all in one office together?
Correct.
Turning your attention to, well, let me step back for a second. At some point in time, Chief Rossi was appointed to his position as chief. I think it was like May of '22, is that fair?
That sounds about right, yes.
After he was appointed, was there a vacancy for the assistant's positions in the chief's office?
My position?
Not your position, but I think there's somebody else that works as an assistant in the chief's office?
Oh, and for another secretary?
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
Okay, what position became open after after Chief Rossi was appointed chief?
There was a senior secretary.
Do you have any idea when that came open?
I'm not positive, no.
Who held the position that was vacating?
It was Stacy Rafferty.
At some point, was there a process for filling that position?
Yes.
Can you explain to the arbitrator what that process was?
The application process went out to hire someone, and after they had a few candidates, I'm not sure who looked at the applications or whatever, but it was decided who would be interviewed.
Okay, and who was doing the interviews?
It was determined that it was going to be myself, Commander Sutherland, and Dave Zilakowski, Commander Zilakowski.
Was Deputy Chief West involved in any of those?
He did not
interviews?
want to be involved in it.
I'm sorry?
He did not want to be involved in it
Did he tell you why he didn't want to be involved in it?
because he didn't want to be blamed for anything. Whatever the decision was going to be, he didn't want to be involved with it or blamed for any decision.
Okay, so ultimately, did that committee have interviews and make a recommendation?
Yes, we did.
And was Andrea Stotner one of the applicants for that position?
She was, yes.
Do you recall whether Andrea Stotner came up at any point before the interview process to talk to the chief about that position?
She came up to talk to the deputy chief about it.
To Deputy Chief West?
Yes.
Do you know why she came up to talk to Deputy Chief West?
She just wanted to let him know that she had applied for the position.
Did her husband come and talk to anybody in the administration?
Yes, he came up to talk to the deputy chief before she did.
Why would?
Well, he told the deputy chief the same thing, that she had applied for the position and she should be next in line for the job.
What does that mean to be next in line?
That she was supposedly to get that job. She was told, or he was told, that she would be next in line to get that job.
Did he mention who would be next in line?
going to object to hearsay. These are people that are, these are out-of-court statements made to other people. The deputy chief already testified as to these conversations.
Well, I'd sort of agree. I was just thinking about asking a question myself. Maybe you can sort this out, but, I mean, you answered a couple of questions. In both cases, I was kind of wondering, how did you know that?
I was told that by the deputy chief.
Okay. He did already testify. It's clear his testimony is the best testimony on what happened.
I'll move on. At some point, who was selected for that position?
Jamie Fahey.
After the selection of Jamie Fahey, did you receive any different treatment by either Andrea Stotner or her husband?
Andrea I never see, so I didn't receive any treatment, but by her husband I did.
Okay, can you describe that?
When I would walk into a room he was in, he would turn away from me. He would see me coming in and turn away from me, or in the halls, he would turn away from me, not acknowledge me at all.
Did he engage in that behavior prior to the decision?
No,
Or how would you describe your relationship with him prior to that relationship?
we would say hi to each other if we saw each other.
Turning your attention to, I think it's Exhibit 9, well, it's the document you're looking at, Bates number 642, which is Exhibit 9 to Exhibit 1. Can you identify for the record this document?
Yes, it was a memo that I had typed up for the chief.
Okay, and tell me about, did anyone ask you to type the memo up?
The chief had asked me to.
Okay. And it appears as though you had a conversation with Bill Sanchez on April 5th of 2023?
Yes.
Could you please describe for the arbitrator that conversation with Mr. Sanchez?
I had to go in the back by him to talk to him about something business related. And as we were finishing up, he asked me,
She's looking at the document in front of her. I don't know if he's reciting from it.
okay, I can tell you, okay.
Wait a minute. She wrote the memo. What's the problem? I don't understand what the problem is.
The document speaks for itself, number one. And so either she's going to testify from memory or she's going to read the document.
She's not reading the document for this.
Looking at it. She's looking at it as she's testifying.
I'm not reading it.
I know, she wasn't reading. She wasn't reading from the document.
She was
so-
looking at the document while she was testifying.
I will look at you.
Okay. you can-
Okay, so we finished up the business I had to talk to him about, and he asked me how things were going up there. And I said they were good. And he told me something big was gonna happen in a couple of weeks. Something big was going down in a couple of weeks. And I asked him what he meant, and he said that supervisors were very upset with the way Deputy Chief talks to them. And he said they were looking to put a complaint in against him. And I asked him, what was he expecting by this, or what were they expecting by this? And he said that they were expecting either the deputy chief to resign or to be fired.
Okay.
And if the chief didn't do anything about it, then they were looking to go after the chief too, for not doing anything about it.
Did you ask him what were the statements or the complaints were about? Like how?
He just said it was the way that they had talked to him, the way that he had talked to them.
Did he say that he made discriminatory comments?
No,
Did he say that he had anybody?
no,
Did he describe the comments in any other fashion?
no, it was just the tone and the manner of the way he spoke to them.
Was the conversation with Bill Sanchez on April 5th, 2023, the first time that Bill Sanchez said there was a problem with Deputy Chief West?
Yes,
Did you have a conversation with him prior to or subsequent to that? Well, how many conversations did you have with Bill Sanchez about them complaining about the deputy chief?
after this initial one, I had another conversation with them. I don't remember the exact date, but it was basically the same thing. It was the same conversation.
Are you a member of a union?
I'm not currently, no.
Why was Bill Sanchez talking to you about a supervisor complaint?
I don't know that.
Are you a supervisor?
No, I'm not.
In the memo that it's in front of you, and you can look at it, it's quite all right. You have the one date of April 5th of 2023, and then you drafted the memo, it's dated May 18th, 2023. Did you draft the memo that's marked as Bates stamped 642 on May 18th, 2023?
Yes,
And did you have a conversation with the chief on May 18th, 2023?
it was, yes, I think it was that date.
Okay. What caused you to have that conversation with the chief on May 18th of 2023?
Because after the second conversation, I figured I had to say something then.
Why did you think you had to say something?
Because I thought it was serious, that they were looking to have him fired or have him resign
Okay.
for what they were talking about.
Did it concern you?
It did.
Did you have any problems working with Deputy Chief West?
No,
Did you have any problems working with Chief Rossi?
no.
In your memo, you You recite that you asked Bill Sanchez whether the supervisors were upset because Deputy Chief West held them accountable for their actions. Why did you ask him about that specifically?
Because I just felt it was silly at the time for what he was saying. I just kept telling him, come on, Bill, why would they do something like that? It just sounded so silly. That's why I just kept saying it.
Okay. Did Deputy Chief West have a reputation for holding people accountable?
Yes,
How long have you worked with Deputy Chief West?
I've been there for 14 years.
Do you find him to be a fair man?
Extremely fair, yes.
And in here, Mr. Sanchez, said, told you that the union representative said they had legitimate complaints and could move forward.
Yes,
Where did this conversation occur?
it was in Sergeant Sanchez's office.
Why would they go after Chief Rossi?
I don't know.
Was he threatening Chief Ross, in your opinion, listening to him? Was he threatening Chief Rossi if he didn't get rid of Deputy Chief West?
Yes,
I asked her what her opinion was based on the two conversations she had with,
You can answer that.
yes.
thank you.
I have one question. I wanted to have my notes complete on this. So we were talking about dates. Yvette was asking about dates. So April 5th, 23 was the first conversation you had, and then we have this memo dated May 18th. But you said you had a second conversation. Did you mention the date? You had the second conversation with Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, I did have a second conversation.
But did you mention when it was?
It was about the same thing.
But no, what date was
The
it?
date, I'm not sure on,
Okay.
no.
Fair enough.
Is it fair to assume that it's on or around the time you drafted the memo on May 18th?
Yes,
When you had that second conversation with Sergeant Sanchez, did he tell you that he and Lieutenant Stotner didn't have a personal problem with Deputy Chief West?
yes, he did.
Did he tell you what he meant by putting him, meaning Deputy Chief West, in his place?
No, he didn't explain it.
When have you ever heard Chief Rossi tell Sanchez, quote, "If you're looking for a friend, go buy a dog"? Quote?
No,
Have you heard Chief McCarthy use that expression?
no.
Going back to the memo for a minute, Bill Sanchez referenced complaints that he had, or that the supervisors had against the deputy chief, right?
Yes,
Did he ever say anything about a vote of no confidence?
I think that was mentioned, yes.
Okay. When Chief Rossi was appointed chief, did he tell people that he had an open door policy?
Yes,
Do you remember him cooking for the various shifts and things like that?
yes, he did.
Okay. Have you ever heard Deputy Chief West refer to Sanchez by any derogatory name?
No,
Have you ever heard him make any comments about his national origin?
no,
Have you ever heard Chief Rossi refer to Bill Sanchez by any derogatory name?
no,
Have you ever heard Chief Rossi make any statements with respect to Bill Sanchez's national origin?
no.
Have you ever heard, or do you know whether or not Bill Sanchez has a nickname of Dirt or Dirty?
I've heard the nickname before.
Have you ever heard Deputy Chief West or Chief Rossi ever refer to him by that nickname?
Never, no.
When Andrea Stetner didn't get the administrative position, do you know whether she filed a grievance?
Yes, she did.
You know who that grievance was against?
I'm not sure who it was against.
And was Commander Sutherland part of that interview committee?
Yes,
Did he retire after that decision with respect to Jamie Fahey?
yes.
Can you give me a minute? I might, yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, do you guys want the opportunity to take a short caucus? Or are you ready to roll?
We're ready to roll.
Okay. Cross-examination.
Good morning, Ms. Netzel. My name is Ray Garza. The April 5th, 2023 conversation with Sergeant Sanchez, you didn't take any notes of that conversation, isn't that correct?
No, I did not.
And then you wrote a memo on May 18, 2023, correct?
Correct,
43 days later, correct?
correct.
And you wrote that memo from memory, isn't that correct?
No, I had typed it out after my conversation with Sergeant Sanchez.
But you
For
wrote,
my records.
okay, but you wrote the memo. You didn't read from any notes or anything when you wrote that memo?
No,
You wrote it, right, you wrote that memo from memory.
no, I wrote it from my memo that I had typed up after my conversation with him,
Well, conversation with who?
with Sergeant Sanchez,
So you wrote a memo after the April 5th?
to myself. I had
Okay.
typed one up.
Okay. Do you know where that's at?
It's on my file.
Okay. We asked for discovery on this, and we never received, for all documents, really.
I've not seen it. I have not seen that either.
I wasn't aware of it.
You still have it?
I'm not sure if I still have it or not.
Can we take a break here for a second?
Well, another way to do this, we can go find this particular document.
We haven't had a chance to prepare, and this is the first time we're seeing this. This has been in her possession the whole time. And now we're getting it for the first time. And she's testified, and it's the first time we're hearing that she's had a contemporaneous memo with regards to this.
I did not, I was unaware of the memo, but there is nothing that says that it's not exactly like the memo we produced, because she prepared this memo at or around the same time she had the conversation with Bill Sanchez.
That's not even close to being accurate. What happened, no, she testified that after her conversation on April 4th, she wrote a contemporaneous memo. That's what she said, that's what she testified to. And now we don't have, and now we're hearing about the first time that there's a memo with regards to this, that she wrote contemporaneously. In addition to the memo she wrote to the chief 43 days later.
So I want to ask the witness a question. When you did this memo that's Bates stamp 642, did you type it from this earlier one you had done, or?
Not exactly,
Not exactly?
yes.
Okay.
And also in her statement, in her interview with Jimmy Lee, she was asked about any other memos, and she said no. So now she's not only is we find out about this first time, she wasn't truthful to the investigator.
She just said she wrote a memo to file.
No, it was not a memo to file. It was my own notes. It was not to file.
And then she asked her if she took any notes, and then she said she didn't have any notes. Now we're hearing,
Well,
is it notes or is it a
I think
contemporaneous memo?
the arbitrator's going to say, let's take a break. Let's go see if you can find this and bring it in. We can maybe clear this up, okay? We're on break. But back on the record and resume the cross-examination. I'll turn it over to you, Ray.
Thank you. Ms. Netzel, I had asked you, did you take any notes with regards to your April 4th conversation with Mr. Sanchez? And your testimony was that you did not. Is that your testimony?
Yes,
Okay. I then asked you that you waited 43 days to write a memo, and you told me no. You recall that?
yes,
And you had said that you had wrote a previous memo to file, I believe was your testimony, correct?
yes,
And I asked you, when was that memo to file? You said it was after your conversation with Mr. Sanchez, correct?
correct.
Was that the first conversation you had with him, that you wrote that memo to file?
No,
Okay, was it the second one?
yes,
Okay. So the second conversation that you had with Sanchez, you wrote a memo to file?
no, I did not.
Okay. You were asked by the arbitrator to go ahead and find the memo that you were speaking of with regards to file. Is this the memo that you're speaking? Yes. Okay. Now, if I can show you this memo, we'll mark it as, I don't know what we're on right now.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Make it either
A
one.
joint exhibit?
Make it a joint if you want.
Sounds right. Correct. Handing you what you were asked to look for, joint exhibit 24. You have to answer yes or verbally yes or no.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
The memo you were asked to look for by the arbitrator, is that the memo that you were asked to look for?
Yes,
When I asked you the question regarding the memo to file, is that the memo that you were referring to?
yes,
And it's your testimony, again, it's your testimony that you wrote this memo when?
it was, I think this is when the chief had asked me to do a memo to him.
So there's a date on top of that exhibit, you see that? It has, you have to answer yes or no, okay? Because the court reporter can't take mm-hms or uh-hs, okay? With regards to this memo and the date on there, does that indicate the date you drafted that memo?
That's the date that was time-stamped on the computer.
Okay, is that the date you drafted this memo?
I honestly don't remember the date.
Okay. Why did you put that date up there then?
That was the date that was on the computer. I just wrote it down.
Okay. With regards to, and by the way, you were asked, you had there was a formal or informal interview conducted with you, isn't that correct?
Yes.
To the characterization of informal interview, because there is a little term of art.
I'll withdraw the question. You were interviewed by Jimmy Lee, isn't that correct?
Yes,
And Jimmy Lee was the investigator, the neutral investigator hired to investigate this matter regarding Mr. Sanchez, correct?
yes,
And in fact, that interview took place July 25th, isn't that correct?
I don't know the date.
Okay, you have any reason to believe it wasn't July 25th?
No,
Okay. It was after you had wrote the memo that the chief had requested of you, correct?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And with regards to that interview, Jimmy Lee, and you knew when you were being interviewed, you needed to be truthful
Yes.
and accurate.
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Yes,
And you were in that interview. It was discussed your memo that the chief had asked you to write, correct?
yes,
Okay. And in that interview, he asked you, are there any other memoranda about Sergeant Sanders' conversations or statements that he's going to get the chief or anything like that? And you answered, not that I'm aware of, no. Do you recall that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking if you recall what I just read.
Can you read it again, please?
Yes. Are there any other memoranda about Sergeant Sanders' conversations or statements that he's going to get the chief or anything like that? You answered, not that I am aware of, no. Do you recall that answer? Do you recall that question and that answer?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play it, and we're gonna refresh your memory.
So what portion of the,
Are there any other,
wait,
Oh, yes, so I have,
is it at the end? Or is it
no, it's 20, well, I'm gonna tell you. It's 25, like 25th minute, 9 seconds, and we're gonna play all the way to 25, 23.
Are there any other memorandum about Sergeant Sanchez's conversations or statements that he's going to get to chief or?
Not that I'm
like
aware
that?
of, no.
Nothing you've written about it?
Nothing, no.
That's your voice, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And he asked you about any other memorandum, correct?
That's what his question was.
And you said no.
That's
You said no, didn't you?
correct.
Okay. So you lied to him. No, I think, I'm asking her the question. She's testifying today that, of other memorandums, other notes that she had, and she was asked by Jimmy Lee, and she says no. So what,
So how do you explain what we just heard?
I honestly don't understand the question that Jimmy Lee's asking. Is he asking about a memorandum that the chief, does the chief have another memorandum? Do I have another memorandum? I'm not sure what the question is.
well, you also were asked by him, okay, nothing that you've written about. And then your answer was nothing, no. Do you remember that question and that answer?
Sure.
You
Yes.
do remember that. That's accurate.
I-
I'm asking her questions. How is that harassing? About, and she does remember. She just testified. She does remember.
Well, this last question.
That wasn't her answer.
On the last question, she said she remembered.
So you do remember him asking about other memorandums that you wrote, correct?
You'd have to play it again. I don't remember, I do not remember my conversation with Jimmy Lee.
Okay,
That
let's play-
happened
let's
so
play
long
that.
ago.
Are there any other memorandum about Sergeant Sanchez's conversations or statements that he's going to get to chief or?
Not that I'm
like
aware
that?
of, no.
Nothing you've written about it?
Nothing, no.
Does that recollect your memory as to what you said?
Sure, if that's what I said, yes.
Okay.
So the arbitrator just wants to say, we've got the tape, I can listen to the whole thing. The arbitrator knows how to assess credibility, so
Thank you.
where we're at.
I'll move on. So, just so that we're clear, between your first meeting with Sergeant Sanchez on April 5th to when you wrote your first memorandum on May 18th, did you write any other memorandums?
No,
Okay. So you did wait 43 days to write a memorandum, and that was based on memory, correct?
correct.
And you then testified as to a second conversation you had with Sergeant Sanchez about the same topic, correct?
Correct.
And that was a topic that concerned you, that the union was going after Chief Rossi and Deputy Chief West, correct? I'm asking about her testimony. I'm asking about what concerned her.
Go ahead.
Yes, you're correct.
And you had a conversation, and then it was that conversation, that second conversation, you don't recall the date, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. But at some point, you felt so concerned about it that you went to the chief to discuss it with him, correct?
Correct.
You remember when you went to the chief?
No, I do not.
Okay. If you could look in the big book there, you look on Bates stamp 646, it's a couple pages after your memorandum.
Okay.
Does that in any way recollect your memory as to when you talked to the chief?
If that's what's on there, then yes.
Okay, so it says here May 1st that he became aware from a civilian employee regarding a complaint being filed by Deputy Chief West, correct?
Correct.
And himself. And is that when you spoke to Chief Rossi?
I would think so. I don't have the exact date, no.
Okay. And then when you spoke to Chief Rossi about these matters that concern you, especially after the second conversation, you waited another 17 days to write the memorandum that's Exhibit 9, or I'm sorry, yeah, Exhibit 9. Correct?
Correct. Mhm.
And in fact, that conversation, with regard to the first conversation, April 5th, isn't it true that you had already known about the rumor that, regarding Chief Rossi and Deputy Chief West when you spoke to Mr. Sanchez?
No, I did not.
You didn't tell him I had heard something and something was going down, and that you brought it to him?
No.
Okay. And you used to, in your memorandum, you used the word they as the pronoun they, correct?
Correct.
And your use of the pronoun they, you're referring to the members of the supervisors union as a whole, correct?
Correct.
Not just Sergeant Sanchez, correct?
Correct.
I mean, you don't say that Sergeant Sanchez wants them fired or Sergeant Sanchez complained in the memo. You say they.
Correct.
Now, I want to talk about this second conversation. It's your testimony, you don't recall when that second conversation occurred?
No, I do not.
Was it soon after you spoke to the chief on May 1st?
No, it had to have been before that.
That, I misspoke. Was it close in time when you spoke to the chief on May 1st?
I think so, yes.
Within a couple days, maybe?
Yes,
Okay. And that second conversation concerned you as much as the first conversation on April 5th, correct?
correct.
And you were asked at that point, the chief asked you to detail what Mr. Sanchez had said to you, correct?
I'm not sure if that's the words he used.
What words did he use with regards to
He
your
just asked
document?
me to do a memo of my conversation with him.
And he asked you to, and he wanted you to be detailed about it, correct?
Correct.
He wanted you to be truthful and accurate about it, correct? And you feel that you were, correct? Looking at your memo on Bait Stamp 646, there's no mention of the, I'm sorry, I said 646, I meant the 642. Are you there?
Okay.
There's nowhere in that memo where you reference the equally concerning conversation, the second conversation that you had. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
No details about it as to what was said or anything of that nature, correct?
Correct.
Now, you feel that it's part of your duties. You feel it's your job to protect the chief and the deputy chief, isn't that correct?
Correct.
In fact, you said that to Jimmy Lee, isn't that correct?
Correct.
That and that fueled why you acted the way you did when you told Chief Rossi, isn't that correct? Now, there were some questions asked you about Lieutenant Stetner's wife and her being able to get a job. You recall those questions?
Correct.
Okay. And counsel asked you that after she didn't get the job, Lieutenant Stetner basically gave you the cold shoulder, correct?
Correct.
That concerned you, didn't it?
Not really, no.
Didn't bother you?
No.
Okay. You didn't report it to anybody, correct?
No.
You didn't report it to anybody because it didn't bother you, correct?
I wasn't happy about it, right, but yeah, not enough to report it, no.
Okay. He's never been disciplined for that, has he?
No, not that I'm aware
Okay.
of.
And please refrain from answering for her, please. You. Yeah, you said you essentially answered for her just a few seconds ago. Anything else? Yeah, I have nothing further. I have nothing further.
Any redirect? Yes, sure.
Ms. Metzel, do you remember verbatim your conversation with Jim Wooley from July 25th, 2023?
No, I do not.
So whatever the tape is on the tape, is on the tape, right?
Correct.
And the context for those questions will be on the tape as well, correct?
Correct.
Looking at this joint exhibit, do you consider this to be a memo to file?
No,
What do you consider this to be?
just notes to myself.
Okay, and can you just describe to the arbitrator why you put these notes together?
That was I had to type that up for for the chief, and he wanted it on memo form.
Okay,
So I had typed it up like that, and then he had wanted it on memo form.
okay, so, is it your testimony that you took what's been marked as Joint Exhibit 24 and put it into that base page 642, that memorandum?
Correct.
Have you looked at what's Joint Exhibit 24? Have you read this just now?
Not just now, no.
Okay, can you take a moment to look at it?
Okay.
And then can you take a look at 642, please? Base page 642, Exhibit 9 to Exhibit 1.
Okay.
Was it your intention to put the contents of Exhibit, Joint Exhibit 24 into base page 642?
Correct.
As you sit here today, do you think those two documents are consistent with each other?
Objection, the document speaks for itself. Objection, the document speaks for himself.
Yes.
Sorry, did you hear that? In your opinion, do you think the two documents are consistent with each other?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Council asked you a bunch of questions about protecting the chief and the deputy chief. When his insinuation is that you're lying to protect either of them. Are you, and you indicated that you protect the chief. What do you mean by that? Or
I
the
have-
deputy chief?
I have to let him know things that are going on that he might not know about.
Okay. Does that include lying for him?
No, it does not.
Does it include lying for Deputy Chief West?
No, it does not.
Is there any portion of this memo, Exhibit 642, that's on base page 642, that's fabricated or false, or that you're lying in order to help Deputy Chief West or Chief Rossi?
No.
You had two conversations with Bill Sanchez, right?
Correct.
Could you tell the arbitrator, were those two conversations consistent with each other?
Yes, they were.
Can you explain why you didn't make notes the first time, around April 5th or whenever you talked to him? Why didn't you take notes that time?
Because I really wasn't sure I was going to do anything about it. I didn't know if I was going to talk to the chief about it or not. I had a hard time with it
Why did you have a hard time with it?
because I didn't want to be a snitch.
Okay. Did you get along with Bill Sanchez?
Yes, I did.
Did you like Bill Sanchez?
Yes, I did.
So what changed between the first conversation and the second conversation that caused you to tell the chief?
The first one I thought, well, maybe they're just talking. But after the second one, then I just had a feeling that it was serious, that he needed to know about it.
And were you concerned about the effect on the chief?
Yes,
And counsel also made it seem like the first conversation had nothing to do with the union, but the second conversation did. Is that an accurate?
That's not what I said.
Did both conversations concern complaints and a vote of no confidence about how Deputy Chief West spoke to the supervisors?
yes.
I have nothing further.
Just a couple questions. With regards to your memorandum that you wrote on May 18th, 2023, Chief Rossi helped you with that memorandum, isn't that correct?
No, he didn't.
Nobody helped you with it?
No.
Did it on your own?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we take a minute? the village would call Lieutenant Carrie Kelly Valen.
Raise your hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So if you've not testified before, first, it's going to be direct examination. She'll ask you some general questions and just give the best answer you can, be honest. Then when you get to cross-examination, it's a little different. They'll ask you questions and probably want yes or no answers, and you may want to elaborate, and you probably should not elaborate unless they ask you to. And then if you want to, if there's something you need to elaborate on, you can go back on redirect, and then Yvette can ask you again. So is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Could you please state your name for the record?
Carrie Kelly Valen.
And what position do you hold with the Village of Orland Park?
Currently, I'm the lieutenant in administration, TDR lieutenant,
What does TDR stand for?
training development and review,
And when were you promoted to lieutenant?
in the end of April of '24. Just recently. Thank you.
Prior to being promoted to lieutenant in training, resource and development?
Training development and review.
Sorry, training, development, and review. Prior to being promoted to lieutenant in that area, what was your position?
I was a sergeant on the afternoon shift patrol.
At some point during the investigation of this case, you were interviewed by Jimmy Lee. Do you remember that?
I do.
And I'm going to ask you to look at, I don't know if it's right in front of you. It's marked as Village Exhibit 19. Could you take a look at the memo that's dated July 31st, 2023?
The memo or the email?
The email, I'm sorry.
That's good. Yes.
I believe during your interview, Mr. Lee showed that email to you? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. At some point, did you have a conversation with Bill Sanchez about whether he was going to Human Resources?
I think we had many conversations over the time of this event about him being involved with human resources. I couldn't recall a date or time or when any of them happened.
Okay, and did he tell you what the substance of that subject matter of that complaint would be?
Matters involving his case?
Would that be, did he have a discrimination issue?
From my understanding, yes.
And discrimination, does that relate to his national origin of Hispanic?
Yes.
Have you ever heard anyone make racial comments about Mr. Sanchez?
No, I've not.
Have you heard Deputy Chief West make racial comments about Mr. Sanchez?
No, personally, I have not.
Have you heard I'm sorry, I wanted to demote him. Have you heard Chief Rossi make racial comments about
No,
Mr.
personally, I
Sanchez?
have not.
And you've not heard any racial comments from anyone else?
No.
No, you haven't, or no, I'm incorrect?
No, I have not.
Okay. And at some point in time, there were some discussions about a vote of no confidence in the department. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Not asking you for any conversations about with the union, okay? Did that vote of no confidence ever happen?
Did it ever happen? No.
Were there discussions about a vote of no confidence?
Amongst union members and both unions, yes.
Are you, setting aside Mr. Sanchez, are you aware of any member of the supervisors union receiving any discipline because of a vote of no confidence?
Because of discussions of them? No.
Have you received any discipline?
No.
Have you been given or identified as someone who spearheaded this vote of no confidence?
Apparently in the complaint filed against me by Deputy Chief West, I was.
Is that an accurate statement? Well, let me were you the spearhead for this?
Did I spearhead this? No.
Can I have a moment? Ready. Do you know why no vote was taken? I'm sorry, do you know why no vote was taken?
We didn't take a no vote.
Right, do you know why there was no vote ever taken?
I believe we just didn't have the substance to do a no vote.
I have nothing further.
No, I'm ready to go. Helps if I turn the microphone on. Ms. Heitzman refreshed your recollection that you gave an interview to Jimmy Lee, is that correct?
Correct.
And all your answers were truthful, correct?
Correct.
And you knew you had to supply truthful and accurate answers during that interview, correct, Lieutenant?
Correct.
During that interview, Jimmy Lee told you that you were not a target of the investigation, is that correct?
Correct.
You subsequently learned after that interview that Deputy Chief West had filed a formal complaint against you, correct?
I did.
You learned that it was for hostile work environment, harassment, and attempting to remove him from his position as Deputy Chief, correct, Lieutenant?
Correct.
Were you ever given a document informing you that you were a target of the investigation?
Never.
Were you ever given a notice of interrogation saying that you had potentially violated general orders and that you were going to be subject to an interrogation of the Uniformed Peace Officers Disciplinary Act?
No, I was not.
How did you learn that Deputy Chief West filed a formal complaint against you?
Unfortunately, through friends and family, once it was made public.
And as you sit here today, do you believe that Deputy Chief West did not have a valid basis for filing a complaint against you?
I don't believe it on a valid basis. I don't cause a hostile work environment.
Do you believe Deputy Chief West made a false complaint against you?
I believe it's false, yes.
To your knowledge, has Deputy Chief West been disciplined for filing a false complaint against you?
No.
And you, in fact, told Jimmy Lee that you believed that Bill was filing a complaint because he was being discriminated against for racial reasons. Is that correct?
Correct.
You also told Jimmy Lee that Bill believed that a memo he received was disciplinary in nature, correct?
Correct.
You, in fact, told Jimmy Lee that our discipline gets put on memos, correct?
Correct.
And at the time you gave the interview, you had never issued a memorandum of discipline as a sergeant, correct?
Correct.
You also told Jimmy Lee about some mistreatment you experienced as a female in the police department, correct?
I did.
Objection, relevance?
Thank you. I'm sorry, you can answer that?
Yes, I did.
In fact, this mistreatment you experienced was from Joe Mitchell, isn't that correct?
Deputy Chief Mitchell at the time, yes.
You also talked about two other female officers that had experienced discrimination and mistreatment, correct?
Yes,
Who are those officers?
Officer Jackie Preedy, and I believe maybe Officer Ashley Tuberin, or former Officer Ashley Tuberin.
And this was around the time you were pregnant, correct? The mistreatment that
Yes,
you alleged.
sorry, yes.
Tell us what happened.
Objection, relevance?
There's, answer? Officer Jackie Preedy and I were assigned to the Investigations Division for light duty assignments, and we were alone in the division at the time. I remember because Governor Rauner was in town, so most of the division had to be out dealing with his press conference. And we were, like I said, we were alone in the division. Deputy Chief Mitchell walked in from the far end of the Investigations Division. We both noticed him. He walked over to our desk, my desk, where the way we're seated, our backs were to each other. He leaned over it, made an inference about us needing to get a steak dinner and a massage. The inference was that we were being lazy.
Did you make a formal complaint about Deputy Chief West? I'm
Mitchell?
sorry, withdrawn. Did you make a formal complaint about then Deputy Chief Mitchell?
I did not.
In fact, you told Jimmy Lee that you were too scared, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Why were you too scared?
Retaliation?
Fair to say you were worried what would happen to you is the same thing that happened to Bill Sanchez?
Objection, mischaracterizes testimony, harassing?
Were you afraid you'd be fired?
Yes.
You also told Jimmy Lee that then, I believe, Commander West, now Deputy Chief West, retired, was aware of what Joe Mitchell did, correct?
Yes.
Brian West did nothing to stop it, isn't that correct?
Nobody did anything to stop it.
Do you believe that Brian West had an obligation to stop it under your rules, regulations, and policies of the Orland Park Police Department?
As a supervisor now, yes.
With respect to the vote of no confidence, isn't it true that you told supervisors that you would in fact sign that vote of no confidence?
Yes.
In fact, you said you'd be the first signature, correct?
I don't recall saying that.
Did you tell supervisors that you would sign it twice?
I don't recall saying that.
But you did say you would sign it, correct?
Yes.
In your interview with Jimmy Lee, you said that you wanted a culture change in the Orland Park Police Department, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's during the time that Chief Rossi was in place and Deputy Chief Brian West, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you said the culture is problematic in the Orland Park Police Department. Didn't you say that?
I probably did.
Chief Rossi, let me ask you this question. Chief Rossi has an open door policy, correct?
Yes.
He's encouraged people to come forward about morale issues, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that discrimination in the workplace is a morale issue?
Definitely.
Mr. Arbitrator, can I have 2 minutes with the co-counsel? Thank you.
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you, Lieutenant. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Okay. Yvette?
Sure.
So let's take care of these documents first, okay?
Yes, I would move for admission of Village Exhibit 19.
Any objection to VOP 19?
No objection.
Okay, so VOP Exhibit number 19 is officially accepted into the record of this case. And you had one other issue on exhibits?
Sure. Last time we were here, I thought, I'm not sure I officially moved to, for admission of 15 through 18, though we had a bunch of press releases, or, I'm sorry, newspaper articles. So I just want to make sure that I officially move for admission of 15 through 18 so that they're all in the record.
We have no objection.
Okay, so without objection, VOP Exhibits 15 through 18 are all officially accepted into the record. So I think we got all that taken care of. You have any redirect?
Yes. One of the individuals you identified was Officer Tuberin.
Former Officer Tuberin.
Okay, and do you know, and her employment was terminated after an investigation, correct?
Objection, relevance.
So you were involved in the vote of no confidence, right?
I was involved in discussions with union members about it.
Okay, and nothing has happened to you negatively, correct?
No.
No, I'm not correct, or no, nothing has
No,
happened to you?
nothing's happened to me negatively.
Okay, and in fact, you've been promoted by Chief Rossi, correct?
Correct.
And was Deputy Chief, you were promoted prior to Deputy Chief West leaving the department, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whether Deputy Chief West recommended you for that promotion?
I have no idea who recommended me for the promotion.
And we were talking about conduct, I'm sorry, council was asking you about conduct concerning a Deputy Chief Mitchell, right?
Correct.
How long ago was that?
I was pregnant with my daughter in 2017.
Okay, so we're talking about something that happened 17 or 7 years ago, roughly?
Sure.
Understand. And were you a sergeant or were you a patrol officer?
I was a patrol officer.
Okay, but you didn't make any complaints from 2017 till that, identifying it in Mr. Lee's interview?
I've been vocal about it. It's not a secret in the department that I don't like how I was treated.
Okay, did you make any complaints though?
No.
Yvette, could you show me where on this Joint Exhibit 23, this TDR position is? I can't seem to find it. I'm just trying to find out where you are on this chart.
If I,
That's the newest one released. I think I'm at the top in the green.
oh, yeah, you are at the top of the green. So if you look under Chief of Police, Deputy Chief, we've got an administrative assistant, and then it appears as though the Lieutenant TDR would be the third in command at the police department.
It's
That's it, thank you very much.
Is that accurate?
all lieutenants are equally ranked, so I wouldn't be third in command. You have 3 commanders. They would be in command under the deputy chief, then come the lieutenants. We're all equally ranked. There's no
Equally ranked as lieutenants.
equally ranked as lieutenants.
And so there's a lieutenant
I think what that's trying to portray is that I'm under the administration division.
in the green. Is that a yes?
Yes.
And there's 3 patrol shifts, correct?
Yes.
And each one has a lieutenant,
They
correct?
do.
Okay. And then you're the lieutenant TDR?
Yes, and there's a lieutenant of investigations as well.
Okay. So there's 5 total?
Yes.
Council, Mr. McQuarrie asked you some questions about this culture issue and morale issue. Chief Rossi was put in his position in May of '22. What were the problems under Chief Rossi's administration regarding discrimination if you had not heard any statements made against Mr. Sanchez?
I'm going to object. I think that mischaracterizes the testimony. The testimony was the lieutenant said that there was a cultural problem. She never said it was discrimination. She said there was a cultural problem. She wants to talk about the cultural problem. I think that's appropriate.
Once you,
I don't think Mr. McQuarrie, consistent with Mr. Garza's previous comments about telling people what to say during their testimony, I don't think that objection is appropriate, I believe. You never heard any comments about discrimination, correct? That's what you said?
To former Sergeant Sanchez? No.
Okay. So what's the culture issue that you're talking about under Chief Rossi's administration since May of 2022?
I think going into our morale and culture issue is kind of a deep dive. We've had a longstanding culture morale issue within the department.
But I'm not asking about what predated Chief Rossi. I'm just asking about,
I think it leads into because we've had such a longstanding morale issue.
okay, so you're talking,
So we've had a longstanding morale issue, and we still do have a morale issue. It's a deeper dive than I think what is going on today.
so as you sit here, so you don't think that culture issue has anything to do with Chief Rossi in his position as the chief, right?
I think it's a situation that we need to address and fix.
But it's a situation that wasn't caused by Chief Rossi, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
One moment, please.
Sure.
Lieutenant, do you understand that Deputy Chief West made the complaint based upon comments Bill Sanchez made to Tina Netzel?
I guess it's my understanding from her memo. Is that correct, how we got to me being a part of the complaint?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you understand that Deputy Chief West also made that complaint based upon comments made by Bill Sanchez?
Objection leading. Objection leading.
It is a bit leading. Maybe you can ask her.
Do you know whether Bill Sanchez identified you as the spearhead for the vote of no confidence to Chief Rossi as well?
Objection calls for speculation. It's
No,
hearsay.
No, you can answer that.
I do not know how.
Do you know whether Bill Sanchez's identification of you do you know whether that was communicated to Deputy Chief West by anyone?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. Do you know whether Bill Sanchez comments identifying you as the spearhead of the vote of no confidence was communicated to Deputy Chief West by anyone?
By any other member of the department? No, I
By
don't.
anyone.
I don't know.
Okay. So it's possible, correct?
I guess so, sure.
I have nothing further.
Okay, you got anything else?
Yeah, recross, please.
Yes.
This problematic culture continues under Chief Rossi, correct? That's your testimony?
Yes, we have a morale issue.
Okay. He's in charge of the police department, correct?
Yes,
There's no one in the police department that outranks Chief Rossi, correct?
correct.
With respect to the email that's in front of you, it says Sergeant Kelly Vallon contacted me today to inform me that she had witnessed Lieutenant Fitzgibbon disparage me in front of fellow supervisors. Did I read that correctly?
Yes,
You told Jimmy Lee that Lieutenant Fitzgibbon has referred to Bill Sanchez as an asshole, correct?
yes,
Done so in front of you, hasn't he?
yes,
You would agree with me calling someone an asshole is disparaging.
yes.
And you never filed a formal complaint with respect to your harassment with Joe Mitchell, fair?
Fair.
And when you told Jimmy Lee that Brian West knew about it and didn't do anything about it in this recent interview, in this case, nothing ever happened to Brian West for not acting, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Anything further? Or are we done with this witness?
I do have a follow-up. In that interview with Jimmy Lee, you told Mr. Lee that Mr. Sanchez and Lieutenant Fitzgibbon.
Objection leading.
I can't hear because you're not close to the microphone.
It's a leading question.
I didn't hear it.
I need to set up what I'm asking her the question about. I'm not leading her.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Council asked you questions about the relationship between Lieutenant Fitzgibbons and Mr. Sanchez just now, right?
About the asshole question, correct?
Yes. And do you recall in your interview with Mr. Lee that indicating that Lieutenant Fitzgibbons and Bill Sanchez didn't like each other?
Yes,
And do you recall stating that there were comments made back and forth between the two of them because they didn't like each other?
yes, I believe I said that.
Nothing further.
Okay,
We have nothing further.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're excused with that?
Thank you. appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations, that's great. Do you have any other witnesses? Are we done for the day?
I believe we are done for the day.
Okay, so just on the record, let's state we're finished today at 11:26 a.m. And we're going to resume with our next day of hearing on this coming Wednesday. That'll be September the 11th at 9 a.m. in this very room, okay? We're going to try to see if we can get done on that date. That'll be for the union's case in chief.
Yes, so is the village resting then?
Subject to the cross-examination and the direct examination.
Sure. Okay, that'll be a wrap for the day.
Thank you, Mr.